So we're back once again. Sorry about the delay. Life's been a bit crazy. We've got another episode. I'd like to say thank you to DB Carpets for sponsoring this month's episode. If you look at the link in my description, you'll see all the details for DB Carpets, and a massive thank you to everyone who's supported us and get these podcasts on so far. Today's guest is one of my old chums.
Very old.
And I refer to myself in that as well. Mr. Paul Hanks, welcome.
Nice to be here. 25 years we've known each other.
I'm so old. I'm so old. Been wanting to get Paul down for a while, and we've had a discussion before we came live, and Paul's story is not necessarily about addiction. It does touch on mental health, but what I'm really interested in is Paul's journey of self-development and also how he reached a point in his life where things changed and he decided to take action. And I think that anyone that's listening that may be struggling with addiction or mental health can hear Paul's story and get some really golden nuggets of how you can come out of the other side and flourish after, and not just maintain this lifestyle of comfort, which I think a lot of us are comfort, bloody hell, I can't get my words out then. I have to chop that bit out. This life of comfort so many years are kind of trapped in.
Yeah.
I think your story encompasses someone who could have just quite easily carried on that way and lived your final days out in that.
It would have been very easy. People would say I've got a comfortable lifestyle. I run my own business, and it is a successful business, and it's given us all the trappings of the things you would expect. We sponsor Sheffield Steelers, we turn up and we do all these weird and wonderful things, and people would say we have that nice lifestyle. But sometimes that is not always completely and totally fulfilling. You need something more than that, and something needs to change in your life for you to achieve that fulfillment and feeling I'm getting something out of this. And I was in that situation probably about 12 months ago, where I'd reached retirement age. So I got my first pension payment. And it was a case of, shit, I'm old. And pensioners, you sit there and you don't do much, and you have a very sedentary lifestyle, and you grow old gracefully. Well, as you know, I've never done anything gracefully. So I want to grow old disgracefully. And I decided I needed to make a change, but I wasn't certain what change I wanted to make. And I got nothing that was really sparking me. Yes, I was going to the gym, but I got no objective. So everything wasn't in a structured form. I was doing stuff. There was no objective, and I wasn't getting better in terms of what I wanted out of my life. We talk about the comfort zone. Even though I was doing bits and pieces at the gym and I was still inside the comfort zone. I wasn't stretching myself that much because I didn't have to.
So we spoke about this before we came on live as well, but I feel like people often fall into this trap of we get older as body starts to wear away. Life's stressful, money, kids, work. So we kind of, just eat a bit too much, drink a bit too much, put on weight, get slower, and then we don't move as much. And then I think as you get especially towards pension age, we slow down, we sit on that sofa, and that's kind of, this is life. You get older, you feel shit, you wither away, and then you die.
That's it, yeah.
I'm really interested in your story, but also the people that inspired me and you, the people that are in the 40s, 50s and 60s and probably older that are booking that trend and essentially saying, well, no, just because you get older, that doesn't mean that things go downhill. Actually, it can be that things get better and you get fitter and you get healthier.
We have this dichotomy in life, there's a tension, because we want things to stay the same and we look back to the good old days, but we also want things to change and become better. And we face challenges along the way. And nobody's life runs through a straight line. It's not a line of progression. You don't go like that. It's ups and downs and plateaus. And my life wasn't the normal sort of, you start a job, you work your way through. Worked in construction when I left school in 1976. Yes, I am that old. spent 20 odd years in construction and then decided it was time for a change because couldn't keep moving around, got kids, they were going to senior school, they needed stability. So at that stage, I decided to go to university. Asked about face, typical of me. So went to university, did okay, did pretty well in fact. Julie, my wife, went to university. She did really, really well at university and was taken on board to do postgraduate studies. Off the back of her hard work, they offered me a place.
Right.
So I was awarded the place, she earned the place. So I'm a lucky boy, really lucky boy. Towards the end of that, I was more or less headhunted by a government department to do, I'm mad keen on data. You know I like data and figures and models.
That's your thing.
That's my thing.
Yeah.
That's what I do. I was recruited by a government department to do some work on that, and I'd got my dream job. And I thought, I can do this for the rest of my life. Government machinery changes all the time.
Of course.
And I was transferred to a local authority to do something different. But still working with data, so I was still quite happy, but I wasn't as happy in a local authority setting. Then, local authority, you're going to be made redundant. So at 53, I'm thinking, okay, what the fuck comes next?
Yeah.
So I took the voluntary redundancy, pocketed the cash payout I'd got, and set up my own business. Naively thinking, this will be tick over till I retire and everything will be cool. 13 years later, we've got a business that's ticking up to about £500,000 a year turnover, family working in it, doing very nicely.
Wow.
And that gives us the comfortable lifestyle. Yeah. And everybody will look from the outside and think, yeah, that's great. They'll not see the hard work that went in before. They'll not see the hard work that still goes on. But it's a comfortable lifestyle. But that big change was when I became a pensioner. The first pension payment coming through, and it was like, shit.
This like moment of realisation and time.
But if you see throughout my life, yeah, I started in a particular industry. Then I had a moment where I had to change that. And a moment when I went to university. So
actually,
throughout the life, there's a series of moments.
Yeah.
It's not just one moment. Throughout your life, you have these moments. And these are these crossroads where you can make those decisions. And how do you respond to it? And it is responding, not reacting.
Yeah.
You need time to think and plot your way through it.
So quite often people in our sector, especially in addiction, will reach a point, maybe it's where they've recovered and then the real work starts. Yeah. For me, this can go one way or the other. So you could have gone into a lifetime of comfort and steadiness, or you could have gone off and drank or done whatever. But it's the people that decide to. You've had points in your life where it's okay. Is it this way? Is it that way?
Is it that way?
Yeah.
And you make a decision. You make a series of choices. This is what I'm going to do. And you set yourself the objective. And you say, that's where I want to be. These are the little steps I need to get there. These are the skills I need to develop. And you create a series of processes. Because the disciplines you need to get there, yes, you need the objective, but you need all the little processes in place. And you turn those processes into habits. So just as you can have bad habits, which will bring you down,
right,
you can have good habits, which will build you up. And those tiny little good habits, if you build on them step by step by step, you make yourself a better person for you and a better person for the people around you.
So anyone that's listening that might be thinking about, I need to improve my life, or I need to change this, or I need to achieve this, I need to do that, should people be looking 1 year, 5 years, 10 years? I think I know what you're going to say, and I'm the same, but I think people, myself included, you look too far ahead, overwhelm, no action.
The way I work, and everybody's different. It might not work for other people, but this works for me. I have an objective, a vision. This is what I want. And you can either create a vision board in your head, or you can create one with paper or IT or whatever. This is what I want. This is where I am, and this is what I need to do. And from that, you create those steps. So you have somewhere where you want to be in 5 years' time, yes, But the steps will be as tiny as, I'm going to get up tomorrow morning before 6 o'clock and I'm going to do this. So even when you start the day, if you're going to get out of bed at 6 o'clock without hitting the snooze button, you do that and you've won. You've won the day. Before you've got out, as you get out of bed, you've won the day.
As opposed to pressing the snooze button, the comfortable route, and then
you play catch up for the rest of the day.
You're waking up groggy behind and everything. And I think this is really important for people that are trying to improve themselves. It's not necessarily about climbing Mount Everest from day one. It's about one step.
And the other thing, we were talking about this earlier, John. You were saying that you went through a period where you looked at life and you said, I'm not as fit as I used to be. And you went out running and you ran a few 100 yards and you threw up. This was your David Goggins moment.
Yes.
We'll talk about David Goggins in a bit, no doubt, because we're both massive fans of the man himself, and using our favourite phrase whenever we talk to each other, stay hard or stay hard, motherfucker. Whatever it is. But you chose to do that. And the following day you had the choice. Were you going to do it again? Or were you just going to go, shit, I can't do this?
And we know what the easier choice is.
The easy choice is that.
Do I want to go out, get out of breath, can't breathe, throw up, and walk back home? Or do I want to stay on the sofa, or do I want to stay in bed?
And this is where I talk about the idea that you need to respond to the situation, because you need to take time away from that and say, I couldn't run, but I used to be able to run. But you could run 5 years ago, and it's taken you 5 years to get to that level of not being fit. So think about it. It's perhaps going to be a 5-year journey to get back to being that fit.
Of course, yeah. And I know this is something else we spoke about, and a lot of the young men especially that I work with, there's a lot of ego in terms of I used to have a 6-pack, or I used to be able to run 5K in X amount of time, or I used to play football 3 times a week, and now I drink and I don't do anything. And it's almost a blocker to getting started. The ego's saying, you used to be this, now you're that, so let's not do anything at all. And actually, like you said, I think dropping the ego and saying, okay, taking ownership and saying, yeah, I've got a beer belly on me, yeah, I'm not fit, yeah, I feel like shit, but actually I'm going to start taking action. And I use the running thing as a reference point, because me being from a sporting background and being competitive, I'm going out to run and all my brain saying is, you could run a 5K in 20 minutes at this age. And now you can't even get to end of the street without wanting to throw up. So what is the point in it? Well, just stop, just give in, just become whatever, and forget that you used to be fit.
The hardest thing is taking that first step, realising you need to do something. And then you say, right, I'm going to do something. And we talk about running, because that's what we've both done as part of our journey. And we look at Couch to 5K. Couch to 5K doesn't start off with running. It starts off with walking. And think about what that old saying, you need to walk before you can run. Couch to 5K, you need to walk before you can run. Changing your life, you need to walk before you can run. So take those steps, take the first steps. They may be walking steps. And gradually, Couch to 5K, you move from walking to walking with a bit of running, walking with a bit more running, and then you move to running with a bit of walking until you eventually get to running the 5K. And it's a process.
Of course. And we spoke earlier about the need to fast track these days. Everyone wants it now. Like, I need to lose 5 stone. I'm going to have an injection and lose it, rather than actually saying, what methodology could I use to lose this weight, but also learn to be able to manage it. We want, press the button, done. And I guess with fitness as well, it's kind of, I want to be able to run a 5K in this time, not I'm going to go out and run a little bit and feel quite shit and feel unwell, and it's going to, but also are we at a risk of wanting to bypass hard work? So if I can have an injection to lose 5 stone, that's a lot easier than running 1,000 miles a year and eating healthier and putting this hard working in the short term.
It's the Instagram images, isn't it? You see somebody there and they're at the side of their sports car and they look flash.
Yeah.
So the sports car with the mansion in the background.
Yeah.
But what you don't know is they've hired the sports car and they've just parked outside somebody else's mansion.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to get away from the image and the reality.
Yeah.
Look at where you are and ground yourself in that reality and how you are going to progress to that next stage. And that's the thing. How are you going to make yourself better? If you cheat, you're cheating yourself, because you want that hard work to be your hard work and your work to pay off for you.
So in that process, let's take running for instance. For the record, I got into running in my self-development journey in 2019, but also massively in COVID because we couldn't do anything else. I hated running. One of our mutual friends, he says to me all the time, I want to get into running, but I hate it. And I'm like, when you first start running, I don't think you're meant to enjoy it.
No.
But also, I think a lot of people, running is such an amazing tool for mental health, but I think what a lot of people do, especially lads that might have been fitter when they were younger, they go out and they go belting somewhere, and after a few minutes, they can't breathe. They feel awful. They stop and go, fuck that. And actually, like you said, the process of going through it from the couch to 5K thing, walking, bit of jogging, bit of walking, a bit of running, bit of faster, I think there's so much learning in that struggle. And actually, that's where we improve, innit? It's not... You're not going to not run in 5 years and then go out and run a really fast 5K. And if you do, you're probably going to feel quite unwell after.
Very unwell.
But actually, the learning and having an injection, there's nothing to learn from that. You're basically fast-tracking what should be a process.
You're developing... When you do it the natural way, you are developing those skills and those strengths yourself. You are not artificially putting them in place. If you... I'll call it cheating. If you cheat like that, it's like if you're nervous and shy and you need the drink to go out and be that person.
It's the same difference.
It's the same thing.
It's a false economy, essentially, isn't it, really? You're
cheating yourself. Yeah. You're not being yourself. You're not being true to yourself. And only by being true to yourself and the way you do things do you get and do you value what you get out of it.
So we'll talk a bit about David Goggins quite a lot. I know there's an awful lot of reference points for everything we've both learned from Goggins. Something you said earlier about fulfilment, and I think there's so much in this for people that are struggling in life. It's almost like purpose and fulfilment are these like really key things that often we're striving for. Yeah, you speak about the Instagram generation and stuff like that. I think a lot of people are lured into this false sense that fulfilment would be, right, I've got the sports car.
Yep.
Right, I've got the nice wife. Right, I've got the nice house. So that's everything sorted. Like, wait, and is it? Is
no,
it?
No.
And I think your journey, you could have had lived a comfortable lifestyle with what you were earning and had nice things and done nice things. But does that mean? And I think back to Goggins, and he said something about, when your time comes and, you know, you go upstairs to meet your maker and you've got a list of what you've done, and then here's your list of what you could have done.
Yeah, and it's the difference between the two.
You've been to the Bahamas, or you've been on cruises, you've got a nice car, and then here's your list of things, and it might not all be material things, but actually achievements, which is the more fulfilling of the two.
I know which I think it is.
Yeah.
I'll talk about the thing that sort of got us here.
Sure.
I've just come back from doing an ultramarathon in Tunisia, which, if you'd have said a year ago I was going to do it, I would have said, you are absolutely off your head. What have you been drinking, John? Not water.
Yeah, something a little bit stronger than that.
A friend of mine called Brian Wood, who is a former soldier, went through all sorts of trials and tribulations, literally trials, because the disgraced lawyer, Phil Shiner, ended up trying to get Brian done for murder based on false evidence submitted to him, and it went all the way through the system. So Brian's been through the hard times in life. I have followed and talked to Brian for many years on social media, and he's been a good friend to me when times have been tough, and I've always been there to support him. But Brian has always put a lot of effort into supporting other veterans, and he's done 25 marathons in 25 days, 35 marathons in 35 days, and taking the easy way. As a company, we have always sponsored him or got equipment when he did the Marathon des Sables, which is a really tough desert race. We bought all of the equipment for him to go out on that and raise money for veterans. We sponsored something that Brian did with Jason Fox in the Arctic when they did 500 kilometres. So there I was, one evening, late February, March, and a message comes through from Brian. We're planning something special. So, how much do you want? Because I've got the try.
That's your relationship.
That's
yeah.
How much do you want? And he said, no, mate, this is a bit different. We're trying to do something a bit special. We're looking for between 200 and 250 people to come out to Tunisia and run various distances of ultramarathons in the Sahara. And I went, Brian, I'm 67. Brian, do you really think I can do this? And he said, you'll never know till you try. So I sat there at Ice Sheffield watching my grandson skate. And I thought, could I? And then I spoke to my other grandson, and he said, you'll never know unless you try, Grandad. So I decided, yeah, I'd go do it, and I enrolled to go on an ultramarathon. Now, I hadn't been running for even longer than you hadn't been running. I hadn't hardly run at all.
So straight away, all the barriers, all the preconceived reasons to not.
I'd signed up in this moment of madness, and then the little voice in the head. He's called Basil. Basil?
Yeah.
He's called Basil, and Basil said, you fucking idiot. You are never going to be able to do that. Just look at the state of you. You haven't done anything. You're a fat, useless, lazy bastard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Basil. Wow.
I thought, that's nice, yeah. So I started and did my first ever park run, park walk, and coached a 5K. And having the trappings does help, because I was able to get professional help in terms of running. I went down to Accelerate Running Shop in Attercliffe, talked to Stuart there, and he said, right, shit, you've got some work to do, my son.
Yes.
So we went through a journey, and it was step by step, and gradually worked our way through to being in a position where we thought we could challenge this. My youngest boy, Dare, who you know from, again, being around many years, he said he would do it, and he came out to Tunisia with me. So there we are on a coach in Tunisia, looking to raise money for veterans, and there's people there saying, yeah, I've just finished the ultramarathon in Jordan, or I've just finished this ultramarathon in Sweden, or we just done Switzerland, are you going to this? And I'm on this coach, I'm thinking, these guys are fucking good. And the doubts are there again. Imposter
syndrome, and again, this for people that are listening, this is what I'm interested in. So you've had the initial barriers when you've decided to sign up for it, and straight away Basil's gone, you're this, you're that, you can't do this, you can't do that. And then you're there.
And I've worked through the process of getting in a position where I can go to Tunis.
But then you're there in the live scenario,
and I'm surrounded by these people.
All these studs are...
what the actual fuck is happening here?
And this is what I'm really interested in, is that quite often for people that are facing these thoughts are quite overpowering. Like, there might be your logical thoughts, and I can, or I will, and then these ones are kind of...
The people I was with, we'd known them before through a WhatsApp group, and the banter was really good in the WhatsApp group and really supportive. But once you get out there, it's different when you see them. And, you see PT instructors from the army. You see people who are special forces or former special forces out there, and you think, what the fuck am I doing with these guys?
The reality, yeah.
And it's a real sort of, have I bitten off too much? But you get the briefing. And besides Brian, the other guy that was the chief organiser, Jason Fox, I mean, there's French, she, and there's Guy that were heavily involved in organising, and an absolutely brilliant team. But Jason Fox said words that evening which struck me and got me right here. He said, What you'll find in the desert is yourself, and you'll find your comrades.
Wow.
And that was like, what the fuck? Now, we were told, the temperature will be about 24 degrees. The week before it was, the week after it was. Oh, was it fuck on the day we did it? It was nearly 40. And it was fucking melting out there. It was seriously hot. And it was a struggle getting out. One of the reasons I wanted to do it was because it was a challenge. I've never done anything like it. The second reason is we set off on the route from the Star Wars village, where they filmed the first Star Wars. And that's where we finished, on the Star Wars village. So, pretty iconic. And we saw sunrise in the Sahara, which we were told we would see, and unforgettable moments. And yeah, they're there. But the other side of it is you're doing things with people. And yes, there were all the studs there, and they were going like crazy. They were miles in front and doing whatever they could. But there were people like me that had never really gone that far, that had never challenged themselves in that way. And we found each other and we worked together as a team. I set off with a plan. The plan was it's going to be run 2 minutes, walk 3 minutes, run 2 minutes, walk 3 minutes. That was the plan. That survived about 1.5 kilometres because the heat was intense and there was no way that I could actually keep that going. So it was very little running, much more walking.
Yeah.
And this happened to a few people. And I got to the first aid station, or just short of the first aid station, and somebody that I'd met the night before, because a group of about 12 or 15 of us all went out for a meal together, a girl called Louise, and caught her up and I said, "How are you doing?" And she said, "It's hot." I said, "Yep, I'd noticed." Sweat's running down my face, water's running off me. I said, "I don't think I can do this. That's aid station just up there. Let's get there and sort it out." So we did. And the first thing they did, pour water over you because it was so hot. Litre of water straight over the top of you. Get drinks down you and get prepared for the next lot. So we walked out of the aid station together. And Louis said, "I don't know how we're going to do this." And I said, "Well, we'll do it together." And for 15k, we stuck together all the way through. So that was finding my comrade.
Yeah.
In adversity,
we
were there together. And I learned things about her which I didn't know, and which I would never have known without being out there in the desert with her. She learned things about me. We talked, we did things, we did them together. So sometimes when you're facing those challenges, you need somebody with you. I talked about Dare being out there. Now, for me, Dare is my hero. Really is. I mean, that boy is fucking hardcore. He was on the longer run than me because he's half my age. And they went wrong early on, so he did an extra 7k. But he did 20k on his own. Nobody with him, on his own. Everything was in his own head for 20k. It was so hot his headphones packed in. And he had 15k, no music, no nothing. Temperatures were 40 degrees. Absolutely dead on his feet. And he had what was described as a special forces mindset because he said, "Fuck it, I'm going for it." And he's admitted he cried and he laughed and he screamed and he did all sorts of things. But he got to the end because that is my fucking hero.
What I'm really interested in, I'm interested in all of it, and it sounds absolutely epic. This mind over matter and these scenarios like what Dare found himself in, like you found yourself in, how much of it is physical ability and how much is it in the head?
This comes back to Goggins. This comes back to Goggins all over again. And I had this, Louise and I were coming towards the end. I think we're in the final 5k. And it was hard because I think we just come across a salt pan. And the salt pans they're flat, but they're not easy going. And the heat radiates back on you. And Louise looked at me and it was that look of, I am struggling. And I just said to her, in the words of Goggins, when you think you're done, you're only 40% done. Just stay hard, motherfucker, we're doing this together. And we did. And I'll send you one of the pictures through of us crossing the line. And you can see on her face the ecstasy of crossing that line, the ecstasy of her being embraced by Jason Fox.
Wow.
That said, she's done it. And yeah, that girl for me, I call her Louise, Queen of the Sahara, because she went out there and she conquered it. She conquered herself, she tested herself, and she pushed herself to the limits. And that girl for me did wonderful things, and I admire everything about her, and she is a very, very special girl.
So anyone that's listening, and Paul referred to the 40% rule from Goggins, he suggests that when you think you're done, we've got another 60% essentially, which is frightening, because you could be in different situations, like this extreme situation you're in, or you could be out on a run here and be completely out of breath and feel like you're toast and you need to stop. And he's like, you've got more than half left to give. But I feel like mentally, I think the connection, what you found there with your newfound friend is for you both. A lot of this self-development stuff and improvement is a solo journey, but actually, when you're at your deepest, darkest points, having people, even if it's just one person, but someone that's there with you on that level that can, when you're maybe done, they can get you through, and vice versa. This is so important.
We all need somebody, a buddy, an accountability buddy, somebody that you can bounce off. During lockdown, I was talking to somebody online, and they were struggling, really struggling, and they had these series of workouts, but they needed somebody to hold them accountable, somebody that they could share the journey with. So I said, okay, well, let's share the journey. I might not be able to do the things you can do. I might not have the equipment you've got, but let's share the journey. And we shared a lot of that journey together. And I only found out later that the guy was Locksmith from Rudimental. And yeah, that's why I got an invite to go down to Brixton Academy. That's why I got an invite to go backstage with them and be part of the after party. But I'd shared that journey with him. I didn't know him as Locksmith. He didn't know me as... We just were there at that time for each other. I've got another friend, Jess, my performance goddess, because she turns round and she will say a message of, come on, you need to do this. You can do that. And when I turn, I say, I'm wrecked. She says, no, you're not. You can push yourself harder. You can do better. You know you can do better. And it's that the person doesn't have to be there in the room with you. It could be somebody on the phone.
So Goggins is always around, isn't he? I've had some mad situations where I've been on my arse on a run and I've seen the Ecolab vans go past that Goggins used to work for. And I'm like, this man's fucking... He's reaching me in ways where it's like, I cannot run anymore. I'm completely out of breath. I'm on my own. I'm feeling sorry for myself. Comes past an Ecolab van and it's like, okay. And literally, it's like I'm locked back in.
The other thing, I'm there, I'm running, I'm walking, I'm doing whatever I'm doing. Because I'm concentrating on, it's this time, it's this process, and I've got my plan of what I want to do. So I've done the maths. And it takes me back to one of the Goggins things. I'm doing the maths. When he did his pull-up record, the first thing he thought about wasn't how difficult it is, how many I got to do. Well, it's that many pull-ups in 24 hours, that's so many an hour. That means I've got to do so many a minute. He broke it all down into simple steps. Because if you close your mind to the possibility of doing something, you will never do it.
Yeah.
You have to open your mind to that possibility. I open my mind to the possibility of I can do the ultramarathon. I opened my mind to it, but then through there I had a process of support from other people to do that. But at the end of the day, Louise had to reach deep inside herself to do it. I had to reach deep inside myself. We helped each other, but we had to do it for ourselves as well. And it's a case of pulling those two things together.
So in this situation that yourself and Louise found yourself in the Sahara Desert, in an extreme scenario, people might be listening and thinking, why? 67 years old? why? Why put yourself in this situation? Why would you want to? Why would you not take the easy route? And also, what's in it for people like yourself and Louise to present yourself with these scenarios? Why would you put yourself through it? Is there something you're going to get out of it? Is it just an extreme situation where it knackers you out and then you come back home and be like, I'm never going to do that again?
I'll answer that in two ways.
Yeah.
The first one is the simple one and perhaps the glib one. The event was to raise money for veterans charities. As an event, the groups raised £228,000 for veterans charities.
Wow.
So I'm proud of doing that, proud of being part of that. But I am more proud of the fact that I challenged myself to do something difficult. You know, there's a book here by Steve Magnus. It's called Do Hard Things. And a lot of what I do and the models I use come from that and a guy called Tim Noakes who set out this model. And the first stage is do something hard. And the first thing your mind is programmed to do, and this is the way your mind is programmed from birth, it's basic instinct of a human being. Your mind is there to protect you, protect your body. And it will say, this is difficult, stop it. Which is when you set off running. I'm going to stop because this
doesn't feel good, stop.
It doesn't feel good, stop.
Yeah.
And at that stage you say, I'm going to push through. You've got a limit. That stop sets a limit for you. Depends how physically fit, mentally fit you are, where that limit is.
But at some point the limitation's there.
You have a limitation somewhere on that first step. But you then decide, I'm going to push through. And you push through. And the mind goes, fuck me, it didn't kill me. And you've achieved something. You've pushed a bit further. And the next stage of it is, you think about it and you go, actually, it wasn't that bad. And you set yourself a new limit, a higher limit. And you've pushed outside your comfort zone and you've grown. The important thing is not to have the growth too big, because if it's too big, it overwhelms you. So you have to grow a little bit each time. There's a thing called flow state. And you'll know this from being a cricketer. He's going to laugh at it.
Use that term very, very loosely.
You listen to Nasser Hussain and he says, he's in the zone. What is the zone? The zone is playing at the limit of your abilities and just beyond. You're totally focused on what you're doing. And the zone is what pushes you to the next level. Your greatest performances are when you're in the zone, when you are mentally and physically at your best, at your peak, and you're pushing your limits, pushing your boundaries, and you're achieving at your best. If you're totally overwhelmed, if the wicket's too much or whatever, then you're out and it's gone. But when you are at your best, those great performances that you have, that's where you are pushed to your limits and just beyond. I've never played like that before. I've never done that. And that is being in the zone.
And it's so empowering to realise you have more than you thought. Yeah. And that's the win, isn't it? It's almost like, I don't know, I could have just been a regular person and this is what was meant for me. And actually, I'm like, wow, look what I've done. Like, this is... Because the things you have to do to get to that point, the hard work that you have to do, the going out, the grinding and the runs and the sacrifices, for most people, they believe it's not worth X amount of effort to, but actually, and this, it pulled me back to my point about fulfilment. Is fulfilment material things, or is fulfilment pushing way beyond your capabilities? And then I can only think about things that I remember when I got into running and never being a runner and hating running and then getting into it. I think the first thing I did is I walked down the canal to Shire Oaks, and then a year later I ran it. And I'm like, well, I've just ran here. Like, this is mad. And then the next one was, I'd wanted to run 10 miles. That had always been my goal. And I'd done a few 10Ks. And one day I did this 10K and I felt quite stable. And I just carried on and carried on and carried on. Strava says 10 mile. Went back home, looked, fucking hell, I've ran 10 miles. And I think all that day I just kept looking and going, my God, I've ran 10 miles. Like, so if that process I've gone through has got me to 10 miles and I've not actually actively thought about it that much, what are we capable of with some plan, with a plan and some work, but also, you know, when we're pushing beyond, how is that going to make us feel? Because I think the point what I'm trying to get at is the empowerment and the fulfillment from achieving things you didn't think you were capable of is so much worth the sacrifice.
The thing is, you have to remember, you're going to get better at 1% at a time. You're not going to make great leaps. You have to work at it consistently. And it is a case of getting up and doing it every day. Some days you don't feel like doing it. I had one in the run-up, I think it was in July. I felt awful. I'm not going to run. I can't run today. Go on, give yourself 5 minutes. So I drove off down to the Valley. I thought, I'll just do a walk around the little lake. And I thought, I can run around there. So I did that. I can do the full circuit. So I did 5K. And I thought, you can do another 5K. So not being able to run, I ended up doing 15K that day, simply by going there, pushing and pushing and pushing. It was an open door once I did it, but it was breaking that barrier. Once you've broken that
your head
barrier,
was saying one thing in the morning, but your body was saying, once you're into it, let's go.
And then once I proved I could do it, and I was able, Basil says, well, you've run time. Yeah, but I've run that 10 minutes, I've run that 15 minutes, I've run that 5K, and you were fucking wrong. And I can do it. And I'm going to prove now. So I'm getting to the stage there when I'm saying to Basil, fuck you.
Yeah, so the battle, you know, the good work you're doing is overpowering the voice that's doubting, the self-doubt. Right. It's almost like you're ploughing on, and that's overpowering the thing that's holding you back. And I think a lot of people struggle with this balance because that negative voice, for people that are stagnant and not really exercising and not really look after themselves, that is so much more prominent than the good part.
And I mean, I mentioned Jess before, and one of the things that she said is these doubts that you have, this voice, it will hold you back. And you were on about the things in life when you get to the end of life, what you haven't achieved, what you've missed out on. Basil is the voice that is stopping you from achieving those things. And you have to challenge Basil by doing those difficult things. And by doing the difficult things, you realise you can do difficult things, and you set new limits, and you keep pushing and pushing and pushing those limits. And that for me, that is what I did when I went to Tunisia. I pushed the limits. And he asked, would I do it again? Well, I signed up to go to Albania. I am not going to do... No, I am pretty certain. I'm not saying I'm not, because never say never. I am pretty certain I am not going to do the 100k with 3,000 metres of ascent. That could be pretty bad at 68. I probably do the 50k. But that's what I've signed up for. I'm going to do it again. There are 4 events in this cycle. Because it's Jason Fox and it's Special Forces, and because Brian Wood was also a training sergeant down with the Royal Marines, it follows pretty much the thing. Desert, which we've done, Tunisia. Mountains, which is Albania. Ice is coming. I don't know whether that's going to be Sweden or Canada, but it's going to be cold. And the final one, Sierra Leone, jungle. Jason Fox said, I'll be 70 when I go to the jungle. Not that I've got a choice of going to the jungle or not. Jason Fox says I'm going. For the simple reason that he's going to kill me in the jungle. And that's the sort of banter and camaraderie that you have. And he's pushing me on to set my sights on doing the 4.
So, question for you. Why not just sit in your nice warm office, earning a few quid, taking it easy, kicking back, going and watching the Steelers, going to nice events? Why? What you just described to me, all these different wind, rain, fire, all these extreme scenarios. Why that? Why not the path of least resistance, as Goggins would say?
Because there was a moment in the desert when it all made sense. When it was, I'm doing this for me because I can do it. I can prove I am worthy of it. I can achieve things. And it was challenging myself. And if life is a series of challenges, and if you can't challenge yourself, when life throws shit at you, And life does throw shit at you in various forms. If you can't challenge yourself, if you cannot harden yourself by taking on those challenges, life will fucking crush you. So make yourself stronger by challenging yourself, setting the limits of what those challenges are, so it's safe for you to make those challenges, so that when life throws you the shit, you can go, I fucking got this. I can do it because I've done it.
You've already answered the question that I were about to. So if somebody was listening to this, and a lot of the people that I work with, particularly in addiction, I worked with a lad who was in here and we filled the whiteboard up of bad things that were happening in his life. And it read bad. There's no, he weren't seeing his kids, he'd split with his missus, he couldn't work, he was drinking, he was taking drugs, all this stuff, so many barriers, so many reasons to not do anything, so many reasons to just go, you know what, life's shit, whatever. For someone like that that's in that position where there's all... And Goggins' book is amazing because he's been through it all and proved that by working hard, discipline and positive mindset, we can overcome anything. You've already kind of answered it, but I'm really interested in what someone who's watching mine be able to get from your situation and your experience.
You don't have to run an ultramarathon. Let's be clear about it. You don't have to run an ultramarathon. Hard is what is hard for you. For somebody, that could be getting into bed. It could be getting out of bed. For somebody that is struggling at school, it could be, well, I'm going to get in for registration every morning. And I'm going to do my best to stay there all day. You set your own ideas of what hard is. And you do those hard things. Because if you make those improvements day by day by day, you will challenge yourself more and more and more. And you will be better equipped for the shit that comes down the line.
How important is it for someone to take complete accountability? So we may be repeating this, but I think it's really important. Many of the people that I work with will blame the world and what's happened and this person, that person, job, money, life. So I can't do this because of ABC, X, Y, Z. But that's taking away the ability to be able to say, hang on, I fucked up here. This is me. How can I change this?
There's two ways of looking at that. One is to take ownership of the problems and the issues. But for me, the way to take ownership is to look at what you can control and what you can't control. I can't control what you think about me. I can't control what anybody thinks about this podcast.
Course.
What I can control is what I think, how I approach things, and how I deal with things, and how I deal with situations. Those are the things inside my control. And that's what I try and do. Control the things I can control. And the rest of it, it's going to happen. But by controlling what I can control, I am better prepared to deal with those things and respond to them. And I always try and talk about responding to a situation rather than reacting. When something is happening, it is really easy to go, I'm doing that. And you're straight there and the next bulge in and you breathe. Take a step back. Take that breath. Right. What does this mean? What's the best way of tackling it? Give yourself space to respond, not react.
That's really interesting. That someone advised me about the chimp paradox. I'd never read it, and it were appropriate to something that was happening in my life. But I was acting completely in chimp mode for quite a long time. So something would happen or something would get said, and I would just go straight for the jugular. And actually, the human part of the brain would and should take stock, breathe, think logically, map it out, and then potentially take some action. A lot of the work I do in this sector, many people are acting, especially if they're still using drugs or still using alcohol. I think it's easier to not go into chimp mode if you're sober and of sound mind, but if you're not well, it's straight to, and then the damage that may come from being in that state as well.
But mine is Basil. It's Basil Fawlty.
Yeah.
And you think about Basil Fawlty, he always reacts to a situation. And he gets himself deeper into the shit by reacting instead of taking a breath and stepping away. So that's part of the reason he's called Basil. Because when he's there and shouting, I realise what he's trying to do. He's trying to drag me into the shit.
So I suppose an interesting takeaway for anyone that's listening is, if they aren't already aware of this chimp part of the brain and this negative voice, is maybe giving it an identity like Paul did with Basil, and actually recognising it when it comes up, and not always just jumping straight in and going on instinct, and actually taking a bit of time to think about what you're doing.
Yes. And the thing is, you need, when you've achieved something, do reward yourself. Give yourself a pat on the back. I mean, yeah. This is the medal. For
Very nice.
It weighs a ton.
I love that.
And that is the physical memento of it. But the mental memento is those moments you spend with people, that moment of achievement. It's when Brian Wood grabs your hand and says, fucking hell, Paul Hanks.
Yeah.
Wow. 67 years old and you fucking come to the
There you
Sahara
go.
and smashed it. Unbelievable. It's those moments which are there, and you hold those, and you think, yeah, I can do it. I can do this. And you hold on to those little things, those bits of praise, those things that you feel proud of having done. And live for those moments of pride that you have. But don't get too high on the pride. Because if the ego gets out of control, that's where you head for problems. Stay grounded, and then look for that next challenge that will say, okay, I've done that. My ego says I can do that. Can I push to this? And you challenge your ego of, are you as good as you think you are? And that's why you go for that next challenge.
To finish off, I just want to talk a little bit about David Goggins and about the time that we met him. So it was a Birmingham at the Arnold Strongman event or something. And I know that's a place, it's a fascinating place actually. There's all different aspects of fitness, and they had all the gym setups and the weightlifting competitions and all sorts going off, but they have different celebrities in that sphere coming to, like MMA fighters, boxers and stuff like that. But when I saw Goggins was there, and he's not someone that's massively into publicity, he's not massively into meet and greets and stuff like that, but when I saw he were there, I'm like, I feel like I need to meet this guy. And I can't refer to people meeting other people of that ilk because I've never really done it before, but I wondered what you thought about the experience of meeting him in person. And also, I think for me, we were queuing to see him and the queue was long. And when we met him, in fact, firstly, I were watching people leaving because he were kind of like barricaded off, so you couldn't see him until you got like next to him. But watching people's faces as they left, so they'd met Goggins, shook his hand, had a photo with him, quick word, and then out. And as they were walking out, I don't want to sound too corny, but it was as if they'd met God, and not because it was God as in his celebrity status, but someone who meant that much to them and what he'd done for these people. It was almost like you could feel the difference that he'd made to all these people individually. If they weren't just meeting a pop star or an actor.
And he had a word for every person. And it wasn't the same. It wasn't a scripted set of words. It was individual. Yeah, thanks for coming, and yes, and then what do you want to do? And stay hard. Do this. Believe in yourself, and all of those phrases were there. But to actually have him there and say that to you meant a huge amount to me. It was, it was like being in the presence of. It
was something. I tried to explain it to people. I went in and I'm thinking. Not that it's going to make any difference what I say to him and how many different people are saying different things, but I literally walked in and I was like, Goggins, man, thank you. And I had my photo, and as I turned round, he like pulled me back towards him, squeezed my hand and went, I appreciate you. And his eyes locked into my eyes, and I was like, and I walked off, and I was like, I think it's not just you've met someone who's famous, but everybody's recognising that my life was in this situation, and a lot of his guidance and his personal experience has helped me get better and improve myself, but improve my family as well. And I think, and I know I looking at other people almost as if like it's an acknowledgement of what someone has done for you, and meeting them in person and being able to shake their hand and look them in the eye. And I felt also like, you just said it, but when he was speaking to each person individually, and there was thousands of people queuing up to see him, he meant sincerely every single. It wasn't just did he sign something, photo, did it off. It was almost like he made a point of drilling down to every single person that he wanted them to know that he appreciated them.
The comment he had to me was, "You have to do it for yourself. Don't let anybody else do it for you." And that, yeah, it wasn't down to anybody. It had to be me. I had to make those steps. I had to make those changes. And so whatever it was me. What I did, how I responded and reacted.
There's lots that I love about Goggins and his book and his story, but for me, it was never about him. It was never about what he achieved. So he's gone on to do some, and I don't want to spoil it for anyone. The first book is called Can't Hurt Me. I would advise you, if you can do audiobooks, the audiobook for me is another level because he sets the challenges at the end and he comes in at the end of each chapter and adds bits to it that aren't in the book. But the book is about the end user, the reader, recognising that it doesn't matter where you are in life, how bad it's been, you can change it and you can improve. And he's done that much stuff, he's achieved that many things that it could easily be a book of him gloating about how fucking amazing he is. Read it, well done, mate. But actually, he uses it in a way where it's about, he says that you're the hero, you're your own hero, and by using his experiences and what he's been through, open your mind to all these possibilities. And I think when you met him as well, it weren't like you were meeting this rock star that was all ego and all them. He was the humblest, the humblest guy.
A comment that was made to me, not by David Goggins, but by someone else, was, become the hero in your story. So put yourself at the centre and do the good things you want to do. Make yourself the hero of your story. But for me, the thing about Goggins is it's focus. He focuses on doing things and he shuts out the rest of the world from doing it. And it took me back to an Ashes Test match in Australia. And it would have been probably in the early 2000s. And Kerry O'Keefe was the commentator. And Steve Waugh was batting, as he always did. And it was a challenging situation. And Steve Waugh came in and he took control of the situation. And Kerry O'Keefe used a phrase from Eminem. Lose yourself in the moment, you own it. And when you're doing something, lose yourself in the moment of what you're doing because you own that moment. That is your focus and that is everything you are doing at the moment. The past is gone, the future is to come. It is that moment. Own it.
I think that's a great place to leave it for today. Paul, your insight is fascinating. I'm sure we'll probably do this again at some point because I get the feeling you're going to go off and do some crazy things. I've got stuff I want to chat to you about because I've got goals on myself. And for me, listening to you, I've put so many barriers. I've got an idea for next year and I'd already got 50 blockers already. Can't do this because of that. I can't do it. And actually, it's just excuses, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I think...
Knock them down,
yeah,
one by one.
We'll do this again at some point, and I think... I don't dread to things. I mean that in the nicest of way, but I mean in these extreme scenarios you're going to find yourself in. Have you got any sort of final message for anyone who might be watching that might be struggling in life at the minute, whether it be with mental health or addiction or just general day-to-day stuff?
It's okay to struggle. Don't give in when you're struggling. Keep fighting. Set yourself a target of something you want to do and take those little steps. It can be the fact you're going to get up without pressing the snooze button. It can be you're going to get to lunchtime without having a drink. It can be you're going to get to the end of the day without having a drink. Set yourself the targets. Give yourself the little wins. When you win, fucking celebrate your wins. Don't go and have a drink to celebrate. Yeah. Celebrate your wins.
Yeah. Be good to yourself.
Be good to yourself. You've earned it. When you go out there and run, you've earned the celebration. You know, You earn that. It's a celebration. It's going into a frame with some pictures because it's been earned. But that's not the end of it. It's the beginning. And the other thing is, you've seen this morning, messages from Louise, messages from Jess, people I've known through this journey, and they're always there to support. They may not be physically with you, it could be a message, but take those support networks and use them to help you push through, because you won't always be able to do it on your own, but only you can do it.
Thanks a lot, Paul. Perfect. Cheers, mate.